I didn't see not one snake. I didn't hear a I didn't see a snake do that or a man do that. Thank God. So yeah. Hey y'all. Welcome back to my channel. I said hey.
Hey.
Welcome back to my channel.
Hey girl.
Hey y'all, I'm Jazmyn W. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Y'all know I like to jump right in. But first, I'm going to say if you haven't subscribed to my channel, then what are we doing and why are we doing it? Okay, support a black woman who's out here making content, all of things, whatever. Anyway, this video is going to be all about my trip to Australia. I kind of want to tell y'all all the things that I did over the course of my 5-night, 6-day trip. And yeah, answer some questions that I've gotten about Australia. Would I recommend it? What are some of my favorite things and least favorite things and things like that. Also, by the time this comes out, maybe there's a little itinerary below. You can click to download or something like that. If you join my Patreon, I do have a Patreon where I have a podcast called Jazz After Dark, where we talk about intimacy, but this would be like a free resource on the Patreon, so you wouldn't have to pay to access it. So anyway, I just love traveling and I think my recommendations are really good. This is like my trip to Australia. I left Los Angeles at 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday and I got to Australia on a Saturday morning at around 7:45. I landed because it takes a day. You lose a day because they're a day ahead. So the flight was about 14 and a half hours and it was a very long flight. I was in economy on the way there. On Delta, and yeah, it was a long flight. But you know what, this flight taught me that a lot of the times we don't go on vacation because we say, oh, you know, it's not gonna be worth it, like I only have 3 days off, and if I can't go to Australia for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, why would I even go? And sometimes, you know, even when you get to places overseas and you tell them, me personally, how long I'm staying, I've never stayed overseas for 2 weeks or 3 weeks because I've never had the luxury to be able to do that. You know, when I was younger, I couldn't afford to stay for, you know, overseas for a month.
Still can't.
And now at this point, you know, I have a toddler, so I can't afford to spend that time away from my toddler. So I say all that to say it's worth it to go for however long you can go. A lot of times we don't take that travel because we're like, oh, I don't even have that much time over there. Who cares? I flew 15 hours to stay for 5 nights, and I think that that was perfectly fine. So the first day that I got there, I landed at 7:45 a.m. A lot of times people ask me, what did you do to keep your, you know, to stay on track? Like, even I flew in this morning. It is 2:21 p.m. My flight landed at 8 a.m. So what I did on my way there was, you know, because I left at night, I tried to stay up late for about half the flight, and then I tried to sleep for that second half, so when I landed in Australia I would be very rested, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to take a nap when I got there because there were too many things that I wanted to see. So as soon as I landed at 8 a.m. I went through customs. The whole process was fairly simple. I took a Uber to my hotel.
This is my Uber to my hotel, obviously.
Okay, y'all, I just got into my hotel room, and literally, like, right when you walk in, the bathroom's right here. I got a pretty small room because I don't need much space. I'm trying to figure out, how the lights work in here. Oh, I think I have to put my room number in here, or my card in here for the lights to work. Here we go. Okay, I saw a bug flying around in here like a gnat. It's very humid, but this is the toilet. Everything looks nice and clean. This is me. They have body lotion, which is great. Let's smell it. It says bergamot and orange lavender. Ooh, that smells nice. It smells really nice. This is me after I have lotion on my hands. After a 14.5-hour flight, this is what I look like. I still look pretty cute. Anyway, They have robes here. I love robes because I don't like to bring a lot of pajamas. They have snacks in here. Cool. I won't be touching any of those. But what kind of sneakers is this? Huh. Recycled. Caramel. Okay. Recyclable. Look. Free rubber. Oh, a free condom. I wish I would have a chance to use that. Okay, here's the bed, and here's the view. It's really humid. Like, this is a very humid city so far. I just got here. It's supposed to be 90-something degrees today. It's March, mid-March, March 15th. I stayed at the Ace Hotel in Sydney. I loved it. Don't eat the food, but the cocktails and the service and the people and the hotel was great. It was also very centrally located. Like I could take a bus or I could walk to the Sydney Opera House. I could take a bus that took me about 40 minutes to get to Bondi Beach. Or I took lots of buses around the city, and also the Ace Hotel in Sydney is in the neighborhood. So it was just a very queer friendly neighborhood. I would also say that if you're queer, Sydney is a really great place to visit because their neighborhood was so big. And you know, people are just living their best life, you know, in that neighborhood. So I really enjoyed staying there. Anyway, so once I landed, I put my bags in my room. They had my room ready. I did email the hotel to let them know that I had an early flight and I would love if they had a room for me ready when I got there at 8 a.m. I don't remember getting an email back, but when I landed and checked in, they had a room ready for me. I took a shower, I changed my clothes, and then I Googled how to get the bus to Bondi Beach, and that's where I went. So as soon as I landed, I got on a bus, I went to Bondi. I laid in the sand. I walked around. There's some shopping, a little bit of shopping around Bondi. I had a coffee. I saw the Bondi icebergs. I didn't go into the icebergs. Like, you can pay $10 and go down to the pool. But just seeing it was pretty cool. I didn't feel like I needed to go down there on this particular trip because why would I pay $10 to go to the pool and I can't even swim when the beach is right here and I can just get in the ocean for free? That's just kind of how I felt about it. You can see the beach over there. Look at the water. And this is my view on my walk down. Cute, 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 cute. The water is so blue. It looks gorgeous. Look at the coast. It looks gorgeous. It's like a beach right up against the city like LA, but the water, the beach looks prettier. Okay, y'all see that blue water over there? That is the famous Bondi Beach pool, and I'm headed over there to go look at it. I don't think I'm actually gonna go in today, but look, just can we appreciate the view? This is, it's like, hold on. It's 2:17 p.m. right now. Look at, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. This is the famous Bondi pool, or these are called the icebergs. Beautiful, breathtaking. I can't swim, so I didn't go down there, but maybe next time I will. And seeing it was cool enough. I didn't have to like go down there and pay. There's also the Coogee Walk that's about 2 miles on the coast and 2 miles back. I didn't do that full Coogee Walk. I did walk quite a ways. I probably walked about half a mile, enjoyed the view, and then walked back to the beach and enjoyed the beach. one of my favorite things about the Australian beaches is they all have these pools that they have built on the side of the ocean. So it's ocean water that goes directly into these like pools that are sort of man-made, but they're right on the side of the beach. And I think that is so cool. Like, why doesn't every beach on earth have that? Like, why isn't there a pool built on the side, a very shallow pool? So that's where a lot of kids were. I thought it was amazing. Like, all the kids kind of hung out in this one little area because it was so safe to swim in this little protected area, you know, and the parents were kind of just hanging out there and the kids were, you know, hanging out in shallow water. I thought it was just wonderful. If you see, there might be a little bit of footage here, but I don't like to get people's kids on camera and stuff like that. So, you know, anyway, so, I will say that my experience in Bondi was amazing. It was amazing. I stopped at this little cafe and had the worst matcha I've ever had. It was basically very little matcha and milka and mango. It was a mango matcha, but it was just mango and milk.
And here it is. The matcha was bad. The mango at the bottom had mango flavor, at least. But the cafe was right by the water. This was very cute. I loved just sitting here by myself and enjoying lunch.
Which was not good. But the pasta that I ate at this little spot, it was like a shrimp pasta. It was delicious. Delicious. Okay. That first day, I went to, I came back to the hotel, took a shower and got ready to go to dinner. And I stopped at the bar in my hotel, which is kind of like popping every night. You know, there's always people in the lobby having a drink or eating, and I really like that about the hotel. But then I went to Meat and Wine Co. And listen,
hated it.
When I posted that I went to Meat and Wine Co., a couple people who either lived in Australia or had lived there were like, "That's a chain. You shouldn't have gone there." But the reason I went there is because it was supposed to be an African-inspired steakhouse. I knew that they had more than one location. I think they had 3 locations in Sydney. But sometimes chains can be good. I saw a couple of videos about it where the girls who went there raved about it, so I wanted to try it. It was mediocre. Yeah. I don't think I had a drink that night, but the steak was mediocre. It was tough. I had a tuna tartare. One thing about me, baby, is I'm going to order some tuna. Raw tuna at that. So I think I had raw tuna 3 times in 5 days because I love tuna so much. But yeah, the tuna tartare wasn't good. It was a little chewy in my opinion. The potatoes, the mashed potatoes were to die for.
Delicious.
To die for. But everything else, you could skip the Meat and Wine Company or whatever. Don't go there. So the next day I woke up and I was like, okay, cool. Now it's time for, remember this is Sunday. These were the warmest days that I was there too. Right? Monday or Saturday and Sunday. So I knew I had to take advantage if I was going to get my beach time in, which is what I love, the beach. I had to do it these days. So on Sunday, I woke up and I walked my happy ass right onto the bus. And I think I caught the bus to Sydney Opera House. The wharf up there where all of the cruise ships were. I saw a big cruise ship. One of the guys in the hotel that was working at the hotel even asked me if I was on a cruise. And I was like, no, I'm not on a cruise. He's like, oh, there's an American cruise ship here. So I was just wondering if you're on the cruise. And I was like, no. So I took the ferry to Manly Beach. There's a Manly fast ferry. When I tell y'all, I got on the ferry at like 9 a.m. I just literally walked. Like, I walked up to the ferry and then I was like, oh, I can get on right now. And keep in mind, you can tap with your phone. You can use Apple Pay on the bus on the ferry, on the train. You can use Apple Pay everywhere. I never bought a card to travel on any other transportation. I never had any cash, any Australian dollars. I just tapped my phone for everything.
I actually walked from my hotel to the circular queue, and that's where I got the ferry. I didn't take a bus that day. I walked. That says Westfield up there, like the mall. My kid loves fountains. Look at this fountain, baby. I just passed the Botanical Garden, and I'm about 5 minutes from Circular Queue. I think that's how you say it. Very nice walk. Very, very nice walk. Straight shot from my hotel all the way there. This is the cruise port. Look. When I tell y'all I barely made it, I just walked up here. This is me on the ferry. You get a view of the entire coast, the Sydney Opera House, this big cute cruise ship. This was so beautiful, so relaxing. Not good if you get motion sickness, but I grew up on a boat, so I do not get motion sickness or seasick. But yeah, highly recommend doing this if you're ever in Sydney.
So I tapped my phone right there to get on the ferry and just hopped on the ferry. I just saw it said Manly Fast Ferry. I was like, I know I'm going to Manly Beach, period. So I hopped right on, and there was an Asian guy who was just sort of sitting by himself. He had his two phones. He was gaming or something. And I asked him if I could just sit across from him because he was sitting next to the window. And he said, yeah, go ahead. So I sat next to the window and took the ferry. It was about maybe a 25-minute ferry ride. It was really nice. You got to see all the coasts. I also got to see the fact that in Sydney there are a lot of little beaches. Like, taking the ferry really allowed me to see like the little beaches that were on the coast, and somebody was on, like, there were people on every single beach, and I thought that was really cool. But yeah, when I got off the Manly ferry, it's kind of funny because there was some sand, like there was a little beach at the pier, and I was like, I know this ain't what I got off the ferry for. This because this is a mess, because the water was kind of green. It had a lot of like algae in it. There were boats because it's the pier.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, but it's actually pretty, but nobody wants to swim in this. So, yeah. is a cute little area. You can see all the boats. You can see the whole coast. Very pretty. It's actually prettier than I was giving it credit for, like docking, but
it's the Manly Pier, and I was like, "Go, Lord, please don't tell me I came all the way over here for this." But I saw everybody getting off and sort of walking in one direction. There were some shops around and stuff like that, restaurants. So I was like, okay. So I stopped at a couple of shops. There's a little shop on the way called One Teaspoon, and I have like a shirt that I bought from there that I wear all the time. If I showed the shirt right now, you would have seen me wear this shirt 100 times.
At least.
And I just bought it on sale one day online. I didn't even know it was an Australian brand. But anyway, so I ended up walking to Manly Beach, and they were having some water sport competitions. Like there was the women's on this side, and they were doing like boats, and then they would come back, and then the girls tag the other girls in, and they would paddle. It was like a swimming contest, like the 2025 water sport competition for Sydney. I don't know what it was.
Girl, you don't
I
know.
don't know what it was, but I enjoyed laying on the beach and watching. Now, I will say Manly Beach was not as nice as Bondi Beach, because in Bondi the sand felt very soft and powdery, and there was a lot of sand to like concrete to sand to water ratio. The beach was very wide and big, and it felt very more vast, versus the Manly Beach was kind of like narrow and short, and the sand was a bit grainier, and it was just a bit more cloudy that day, and it just didn't feel, I don't think the beach was as nice. That's just my personal opinion. I went to the beach once. I felt like I didn't need to go back. In fact, if I went back to Australia, if I went back to Sydney, I would not feel the need to go back to Manly Beach. That's just me. I had lunch at, I think, Chica Bonita, a restaurant there, a little Mexican spot. And I don't really like Mexican because I live in LA and I'm from Texas. Like, I grew up eating Mexican. I grew up eating Tex-Mex. Like, I get so sick because every time anybody wants to go out to eat here in LA, oh, let's do Mexican. Let's do Mexican. That's all people want to eat. There's Mexican on every corner. Like, I just get overwhelmed with all the Mexican food, and I grew up in Texas too, like, where it's the same way. So also, if you're from Texas and you live in LA, it's very, very rare that you're going to get better Mexican food than that unless you're in Mexico. So, but I stopped anyway. And I was like, let me just see what they got, because I'm tired of walking around. I was hungry, thirsty. So I stopped at this little Mexican spot. The guacamole was mid. The tuna tartare was nasty. Like, it didn't taste right to me. And what else did I get? Oh, I got a fried chicken taco, and that was decent.
It was cold.
Everything to me came out too fast and lukewarm. I didn't really like that. So, well, the guacamole and the tuna were cold dishes, but the chicken fried taco came out a little bit lukewarm to me. Don't recommend that place. So yeah. So then I caught the ferry back, and what did I do that night?
It's your birthday?
Oh, Sunday. That was my birthday. And I went to the Caterpillar Club.
Highly recommend. Yes.
I went to the Caterpillar Club. The bartender was amazing there. The weather on these 2 days was like 80 degrees both on Saturday and Sunday. Even at night, it was very warm, like 70, high 70s. I put on my little dress. It was very comfortable at night to wear like your legs out and have a dress on. And I went to the Caterpillar Club. So first I had a drink at the hotel bar that I stayed in. And while I was at the hotel bar, I was chatting up with somebody at the bar. And that is the person who ended up asking me on a date, who I went out with a date with on the Tuesday.
Yes.
But also when I got to the Caterpillar Club, y'all know what? So I was there. I was having a couple cocktails. I had already texted my best friend. I said, hey, my best friend was texting me happy birthday. I said, thank you, girl. I said, I'm going to have one too many tonight.
Period.
Because, you know, when you older like me, you plan when you're going to have one too many. You know when you're going to have one too many.
Yeah.
I know when I'm not drinking. I know when I'm going to have just one cocktail. And I know when I'm going to have one too many. And she was like, have a shot for me. And I was like, period. So I stopped at the hotel bar. And I think I had one cocktail there.
Sure.
And then the bartender was like, you want to have a shot? I was like, yes. It's your birthday. He was like, let's take a shot. So we took a shot. And then I was like, I'm going to go to the Caterpillar Club. And he was like, okay, that's a good spot. And so I went to the Caterpillar Club. I had burger and fries for dinner because they have food. And it was delicious. It was very good burger and fries. Very good. Like, I ate every single bite. Cleared my plate out of there. I had maybe a cocktail for at dinner at that point. And the bartender was so helpful. It was this little white Australian person. And they were just so helpful. And so, you know, I felt it was a Sunday night. So I'm like, I felt very tired. I had been on the Australian time zone for 2 days now. And, you know, my body's just a bit confused. And I felt really tired. And I closed out. I said, let me go ahead and close out. I'm tired. And the bartender said, okay. So while they were closing me out, I was like,
girl, stay.
People are starting to come a little bit. And I was like, it's your birthday, girl. You can go home and be tired any night, but you're in Australia and it's your birthday.
It's your birthday.
Stay
girl.
out.
It's your
Push
birthday.
through. And I said, you know what, self? You're right. You're right. So I said, you know what? I know I told you to close me out, but let me have a tequila lemon drop because I'm supposed to be having one too many. I said, let me have a tequila lemon drop. And yeah, people started coming. It actually got packed. And then when I was in the bathroom, I met a black girl who was Sudanese. She was there with her boyfriend. She was like, and then the white girl was with her because their boyfriends was friends. They were Brazilian. And then the white girl was from Wales and she was cool as hell. And me and her low-key clicked more than me and the black girl did. Because the black girl, me and her didn't even exchange Instagrams. But me and the white girl, we exchanged Instagrams. And then the next day, she hit me up. She was like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. It was so funny too, because the black girl was like, let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink. And I was like, girl, I don't let black women buy me drinks. And the white girl was like, well, will you let me buy you one? I said, I sure will. And she was laughing. She was like, okay. I said, I sure will. And so we had shots. It was like a group of us. I sat with them and then we all had shots. And they were like 30, 31, you know, around my age, a little bit younger than me. And we ended up chatting, and that's when I was chatting with the Brazilian at the bar, child. I ended up kicking it with him. And it was just a lot of fun, you know? So
I know it was.
That was fun. So that was Sunday night. On Monday, I think I just got up after being maybe a little bit hungover, and I just walked around the city. I just walked around. I couldn't even tell you what I did. I bopped around the neighborhood. I went to a park. I sat down in the park for a little bit and journaled. I had one of the best egg salad sandwiches from this place called Recess. And I just sat there and ate my sandwich and drank my little ginger juice. And I hopped on the bus and went up over this way or that way. I just really explored the city like I lived there. I stopped and had a coffee, you know, just stuff like that. So I just really just hung around the city. And on Monday night, I couldn't even tell you what I ate. I don't know. Maybe I'll insert it here if I can find the footage. I didn't even take footage this day either because, I did a lot of walking around trying to see if I could shop that day. So yeah. Somebody asked, would I get a summer home in Australia? I totally would, honestly. If I could afford something like that, I totally would. I would get a home there. And it's actually Australia felt like a place where I would love to go back with my kid. I'm like, yeah, me and my kid could totally hang out in Australia. I felt super safe. Everybody was so nice. The service was a little bit iffy now. Every now and then, the service was not all that. But like the service was either amazing or blah, like meh. I think on Monday night I decided to go to this bougie restaurant. And this bougie, let me tell y'all about this bougie restaurant. It was called
Shell House.
It was called, I forget what it was called. I'm gonna put the name up here. But I saw some videos about it online, and I'm gonna answer that, y'all. Give me a second. I saw some videos about it online, and I knew the place was gonna be expensive and bougie. But that's the mood I was in. I wanted some really tasty food. And, you know, I thought the ambiance was nice. It was called Shell House. Shell House is what it was called. So I get there, and, you know, there was some construction around the area, so it was hard to find a bit. But actually, they had they had a rooftop, but that was closed because it's Monday. In Australia, at least in Sydney, lots of things are closed on Monday and Tuesday. I appreciated that, but I did not know that before I got there. Because people who work all weekend, Monday and Tuesday is like their weekend. So on Monday when I was walking around, lots of things were closed. Businesses, restaurants, bars, lots of things were closed. It's a very laid back city. So they was like, we don't play about our rest. So if we worked all weekend, you better believe we're going to have Monday and Tuesday off. I'm not mad at it.
I'm not.
I loved it.
I like it.
Just so you know, if you were going to go for a week, I would go from fly in on Tuesday to Tuesday instead of Thursday to Thursday, because the weekends is really popping more so versus the weekday. So I get to this place, Shell House, and I sit down, and the bartender comes up to me, very honestly, not very nice at all. He was either Italian or French. He handed me the drink menu. I ordered a cocktail. He brought me my cocktail, and I was like, can I get a dinner menu? And he was like, oh, usually the server comes and brings that and explains everything to you. And I said, okay.
Well, where is he?
And so the server came, he went and got the dinner menu for me. And then the server came and said, what would you like? Didn't walk me through the menu at all. And the menu had a lot of different sections to it. It had small bites, it had seafood, it had steak, it had sides, it had small plates, it had main plates, it had all of the things that you would expect like a very vast menu to have. It wasn't a very simple menu. So I started to ask, okay, well, what about this? Like, is this, like, how is this prepared? What does this mean? You know, I'm not afraid to say, what is this ingredient or what does this mean if I don't know something? And then the server, I found him to be very dry, and he barely explained the things to me. So I ended up ordering some bread.
Dookie bread.
And it was like this bread that looked like he had dookie smeared all over it. It was actually kind of good, but
Dookie.
The air conditioning was actually so high up in the restaurant. It was so cold in that restaurant that when the bread came, I probably had a few minutes to eat it before it got to tense up because it was so cold in that restaurant. So the bread has some sort of like garlicky sort of spread on top, but it looked like dookie. I'm not lying to y'all. I'm going to show y'all a video right here, pictures. It looked like dookie. Then I got the risotto, crab risotto. The crab was nowhere to be found. The risotto was a bit al dente for my particular taste. Like I felt the rice was a bit firm, you know. And then I ordered a side of potatoes, and they were like kind of sliced. It's like they took a potato slicer, sliced it down, but not all the way through. And then they were sitting in like a garlicky sauce, right? So there were like 4 potatoes on this plate. I'll show you. You'll see the video. And I put on threads that I thought it was a bit ridiculous that when I said, okay, you know, I ate about half of my food and just a little bit of the potato, not much. And I asked for a box to go, and they said, oh, we don't do to-go boxes. We don't do to-go containers. I've traveled around the world. Okay. And I've eaten at many a fine dining restaurant. Many fine dining establishments.
Many, honey.
Some actually very exclusive restaurants. And what I expect from a restaurant with top tier service is one of two things.
Great service first.
Okay. Number one, if you don't do takeaway boxes, that's fine.
No crab.
I expect you to walk me through the menu and get to know me a bit so you can understand what is my goal for having dinner tonight. Am I hungry? Am I starving? Am I looking for a light bite? What type of experience do I want? Because that is what a fine dining establishment does. They say, what type of experience are you looking for? Are you just here for a light bite? Oh, I see you have an American accent. Are you from out of town? You know what I mean? So none of that was offered to me. Because if I had known prior to, or if the server had asked me how hungry I was or something like that, and I'm just said, oh, I'm just actually looking to explore the menu and have a few small bites, then I would have been fine with not being able to take my items to go. Okay? The second thing that I would look for from a fine dining experience is to accommodate me.
Period.
So if you know you didn't walk me through the menu, if you know you didn't ask me anything about how hungry I was, you didn't provide me with any information, you should have provided me with some boxes. You should have said, you know what, typically we don't provide boxes, but I see you barely, ate. Let me see what I can do for you.
Right.
So you would have educated me and then accommodated me. But he didn't either. He actually told me, well, would you like to wait here? Maybe if, sit here a bit. I said, do you think I'm going to be hungrier in 15 minutes?
Possibly.
He said, it's possible. I said, no, you can go ahead and take my plates. And then they took the plates. A lot of people on Threads said, oh, well, we have strict foodborne illness regulations around here. And a lot of people on Threads said, well, we actually don't waste food in Australia. In America, the portions are too big. So, well, I actually found the portions were too large for one person. What I was served was actually too large for one person.
Exactly.
I could see if the servings were smaller, but you gave me enough for what I would consider 3 people. So you didn't do any investigating and you gave me large portions, and then you told me I couldn't take it to go. And people were talking about, oh, the food takeaway regulations. I don't even live here. I didn't even have a car for the food to sit in. It was going to go back to my hotel with me.
Right.
So instead I just went back to my hotel foodless, and I paid maybe like $100 for that meal.
In Australian dollars.
And I just thought that was unacceptable and enough for me to never go back. But yeah,
and to tell y'all not to go.
So anyway, I don't recommend that place whatsoever. Also, it was $8 for water. Just want to put that out there. Tap water still, because it didn't come in a bottle. So yeah, I'm gonna say no to that. I'm gonna say no to that place. I went home and laid down and got some rest that night. On Tuesday, I got up, walked around, walked probably 3 miles, went to the Botanical Garden of Sydney, and I had a wonderful time just walking through the garden, sitting down. I journaled. I got to look at all the different sort of like plants and wildlife there. I picked up a few souvenirs from the little gift shop that they had, and it was great. Mr. Brown said, don't forget the Uber driver. Yeah, the Uber driver at home that night asked me out on a date, which was really awkward, and he actually never hit me up again, probably because when he asked me out, I said, why? And I said, I'm sorry, you caught me off guard. He was from Hungary. And I was like, is it Hungary or is it Hungary? I think it's Hungary. Anyway, he was a white man from Hungary, child, and he didn't have a smile on his face. He didn't crack a grin, nothing. And I'm like, why are you asking me out? And he was like, oh, because I'm interested. And I said, okay, what are you interested about me? What do you like about me? He said, everything about you. I said, oh, okay.
Really?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram.
Period. Did I hear a fart? What?
Anyway,
What was the noise?
the next day I walked around, went to the botanical garden, hung out, just chilled. I did a lot of walking again because I feel like I really wanted to make sure I explored the city. And then where did I have dinner? Oh, I had dinner at my hotel, at the Ace Hotel at the rooftop restaurant. It was nasty. I had a heirloom tomato salad, lackluster. I had some bad oysters because they dressed them for me. They was nasty. And I had a fish tart. Now, why would you put fish on bread? Raw fish on bread. That was nasty. Everything was nasty. I don't recommend eating there at all. The drinks were delicious, but do not eat at their hotel. Anyway, so after I ate, I went on my date. I went to a bar that he picked out, which is supposed to be, and he sent me some articles about how this is supposed to be one of the best bars in Sydney. And it was a really great experience. The bartenders were very knowledgeable. It was called Fortunate Sons. It was in a different neighborhood in Sydney that I really didn't get a chance to explore, but I wish I would have. It was kind of like the hipster neighborhood. And we told the bartender what we liked and didn't like and let them come up with the cocktails for us each time. And that was a lot of fun. So it was fun to be able to try 3 different cocktails, 3 totally different flavors. One of the cocktails that the bartender made had coffee in it. And he told us, he's like, do y'all like coffee? And we were like, you know what? We will try it. So it was really nice to get to go on that journey and explore the different drinks. My date was Colombian. And like I said, people have asked me, what about Australians? Were they nice? I met some people from Australia, but I probably had a conversation with 2 people who were in the service industry. One at a clothing store and the bartender from Caterpillar Club. Those were probably the only people I came into contact with that were from Australia. Everybody else was from somewhere different. My first Uber driver was from India. My last Uber driver was from Spain. The middle Uber driver was from Hungary. The Brazilians, the Sudanese people at the Caterpillar Club. I went on a date with the Colombian. Nobody was from there. And the driver, my last Uber driver who was from Spain, told me that a lot of people who are actually from Australia end up moving they live more in the countryside. They don't really live in the city like that. And he said they're literally one generation deep, 1 or 2 generations deep living there, and they don't be living in the city like that. He was like, everybody's from somewhere else. And I was like, that's really cool. And that's kind of what made it a really great experience. Everybody was from somewhere else. So yeah, and my last day, that was a great date night that I had. And then the last day I spent the morning hanging out, getting a coffee, and then heading back to Bondi Beach and just laying there for as long as I could. And
getting sunburned.
Walking around Bondi before getting the bus back in the late afternoon. And yeah, it was a perfect, Bondi was it was 77 that day. It was really nice. So
that's my trip.
I think my, somebody said was my peak and pit of the trip. I think my pit of the trip was that Shell House restaurant that wouldn't let me take that food to go, but didn't also provide me with a great service or experience whatsoever. So I would say that was probably the pit of the trip. It felt like I wasted my time, money, and an experience I could have spent having dinner somewhere else. Oh, and I'm gonna say for restaurants, I forgot on the last night there, I also went to this restaurant called, I can't remember the name, but somebody on my Instagram, a black man on my Instagram recommended this place. Thank you so much. It was a Japanese restaurant with sushi. I had the best Wagyu I've ever had in my life. I had a wonderful cocktail. The bartender, he's a little inappropriate, but he was cool. He gave me he gave me a yuzu lemon shot.
Yeah.
Okay. He told me, he was like, when do you leave? I said, I leave tomorrow. He said, man, if you had come earlier, I would have taken you to the strip club.
Okay.
Excuse me? It was a tall white dude. And I don't know where he was from, but his accent was so thick I could barely understand him. I could barely understand what he said. A couple times I was like, huh? I don't know where he was from. But he was like, yeah. He was like, if you'd been here a few more days, I would have took you to the strip club. I was like, the strip club? What a strip club at? He was like, yeah, we got a new one. He was not playing. So, and everybody, all the other people in that restaurant were really nice too. It wasn't called Sokiyo or whatever. I had a delicious miso soup. I love miso soup. I had the Wagyu skewers, which was actually a lot of meat. I ate every bit.
Sure did.
It was a bit much though. And then I had a sushi roll. Delicious. An absolute dream meal. So that was my peak meal. I think my pit, as far as the trip, I think my pit would honestly be like the shopping, because, you know, I bought these earrings, these little freshwater pearl earrings, but I kind of felt like, you know, it can be this way with an island. I felt like I wish that there was more indigenous presence in Australia. Like I wish I would have seen more indigenous vendors at the markets that I ran into. I didn't feel any like sort of like authenticity when it came to like the culture, to be honest with you. And like I found like there were a few like very bougie, expensive shops. For example, the airport was like a mall, but not like a rinky dinky mall, honey. They had a Tiffany and Company, and I'm not even talking about a small a big store. They had a Louis Vuitton store. They had a Philippe Petit watch, or what, you know, the expensive watches. I don't even know how you pronounce those. They had that in the mall. I'm like, they had a Chanel store in the mall. And I'm like, I know Asia's right here, and the Asian girls really be in their bag when it comes to the designer stuff. So I know that was probably the reason, but like, I was like, okay, the shopping felt very, I don't know, it just felt very like super cheap or like very expensive, which I don't really like to shop at either of those places. I did buy a couple of things from Dish, DISSH, a couple of tops, because I've seen that store online before, but I wanted to know if they had good quality. They have excellent quality, and I would call it like, you know, more affordable than like, you know, a top was like $80, $80 Canada, you know, $90 Canada, which can be like, you know, $70 to $60 or something like that, which is actually affordable clothing these days without shopping at Shein or and stuff like that. That's kind of like my range right there, you know. Like, you know, I don't do designer stuff typically unless it's like something super special and on sale. So yeah. But yeah, I guess the pit was the shopping, and the peak was Bondi Beach. From like the beach itself to like the little shopping and the little food and like the strip to like the little pools on the side, the Coogee walk. The experience at Bondi was just amazing. So yeah, all in all, I had a really great time. Somebody asked me about bugs.
Didn't see one. I did not see one bug, y'all.
I know that y'all, like, we all grew up watching Crocodile Dundee, but I didn't go to the zoo because sometimes I feel iffy about zoos anyway. But yeah, I didn't have time to go to like Blue Mountain. That's something I'll have to do next time I'm there. But there was no bugs.
Not one.
There was one gnat in my hotel room, and I saw a really big spider at the Botanical Garden, but it was like in a big old web. And trust me, it had lots of food that it had caught that it was wrapped up in the web. And the spider was just there like, and it wasn't even like as big as my hand. It was like as big as like this. And it was minding its damn business. And they probably they don't touch the spider webs there because it's like sort of a natural environment. Yeah, it was like a garden spider. It was just a large garden spider. I didn't see a mouse. I didn't see any rats. I didn't see any spiders. I didn't see nothing. I saw a few ants at the beach.
I didn't see a kangaroo, nothing.
There was literally no issues with bugs. It's not even something I even considered. So if you're going to, I didn't see not one snake. I didn't hear a I didn't see a
okay, girl.
I didn't see a snake do that or a man do that. Thank God.
Well, tell the truth. Yeah. Tell the truth.
Anyway, I will definitely be going back to Sydney. My Uber driver did tell me that Melbourne is not as, no, my date told me that Melbourne was not as fun because the weather's crappy and their beaches aren't good. Maybe he was biased, but that was my time. I loved it so much. It was one of my honestly, I love every city I go to, but I would say this is one of my favorite cities because it was very city, and then I felt very comfortable and safe. It seemed like people like to have a good time. I liked it. So anyway, if y'all have any questions, drop it below. I'll answer in the comments, and I'll see you in Sydney. Bye.
Bye.